Right, we're here today to look at core stability, and I think it's probably the most confusing area in the whole fitness and exercise realm, and that's because there's many partial theories about what core stability is. We've got yoga approach, we've got Pilates probably being the most widespread nowadays, and it's confusing because we've also got to include breathing when we consider stability. So I'm going to quickly show you the model from the Prague school, which is called dynamic neuromuscular stability, and it's based on infant development, how an infant goes from being born to coming to upright in the first year of life. And interestingly, we don't use a different pattern in teenage years or adulthood. We're still using that same developmental pattern, but we tend to have difficulties and cover it over. And so Jordan, who's model here today, we're going to look at how it works in standing, then we're going to take you through a series of floor exercises. So the spine actually stops here, and that's the crown of Jordan's head, which is the highest point of his head as well, and that's reaching away. So as a result, he's feeling as tall as he can in the field of gravity, and as a result of that reaching away, the spine must lengthen. So remember, the spine goes, say, from the occiput to the sacrum. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about spinal length. So that's the up. Now, Ida Rolf was the practitioner who talked about the bidirectionality of the spine. So we've got an up and down force. So if Jordan's going up to here, where does he come down from? And so the pulley system wants to go up the back and down the front. So I'll show you again. And so that's the chest position. And the chest position also represents the diaphragm. So the diaphragm wants to be horizontal to this up and down, and obviously horizontal to the pelvic floor. So if these axes, which I'm showing you with my hands, are horizontal to each other, then we have good core stability if we know what to do next, which is the ability to widen. And we're going to show you that on the floor. But my fingertips are on the skinniest part of Jordan's waist, and he's widening into my fingers at the same time as he's keeping this overall sense of up with the chest position down. Now the chest position wants to travel to S2. So imagine a line going to S2. Now that doesn't make any sense unless you also bring in spinal length, because if I did that, then obviously I would flex my spine. But when I'm lengthening away and bringing the chest position down, it makes perfect sense that that's the direction we want. So just to summarise, spine lengthens, chest position travels energetically towards the sacrum, and we activate intra-abdominal pressure, with the diaphragm being the pressure regulator. So diaphragm, which is dome-shaped, has an ability to flatten to increase the pressure in this cylinder, the abdominal cylinder. A really good basic definition of breathing stability is a three-dimensional shape change in two cavities, heart and lungs and all the organs. This cavity can change both pressure and volume, and this cavity changes pressure but not volume, because obviously breathing involves a filling and emptying of the lungs. Alright, so now we're going to go to floor and look at basic floor exercises to facilitate this system. So if you come down on your back, Jordan. Now most people go on their back and they're doing all sorts of core work. Problem is they're changing the shape of their spine. Now what we need to do for it to be true core stability is to maintain the length of the spine as it works in standing and moving. And so we look at the very first thing we do. So Jordan has set up in what we call constructive rest. The legs are bent, which stabilises the pelvis and gives him a good chance to feel the length of his spine. We've got a head support because most adults would need one, and so we're just using a folded blanket. A towel is fine, or a small pillow. You don't want it too high because you want to be able to remember we're still lengthening away here. So the first thing Jordan does is bring the chest position down, and so you can obviously hold your own ribs, but as Jordan's breathing in and then out, the chest travels down towards the sacrum, Okay, and so that's, once we're in that position, we want to maintain that position. So the chest stays in what's called the expiratory position, or the breathing out position. Now if you just relax for a moment, Jordan, just relax all of this. And then we need some sort of feedback in the system, so I've got my fingers on Jordan's lower abs, and I ask him to lift where my fingers are. Perfect, so you can see how my fingers went up there. Now what Jordan's doing is working quite hard to activate intra-abdominal pressure. So the diaphragm is working eccentrically to return the lungs on an out breath at the same time as it's maintaining intra-abdominal pressure in this cavity. So that in itself is an exercise, and you can see that all of Jordan's spine is down. So the next movement is lifting the legs. And so most people will do an abdominal exercise where they'll do leg lowering. The important point, just a bit higher there, Jordan, in this exercise is we bring the knees as high as we can while still maintaining full length of the spine. And again, if we went any higher and we lifted the tail off, that's not it, because that would be creating lumbar flexion. And now that's significant load on the system, and the TL junction is supported. So imagine this liquid-filled balloon where the lumbar spine's being supported from pressure from the inside. So the intra-abdominal pressure pushing up against the spine and creating stability. And we're using the weight of the load of the legs to load the spine. Now Jordan's going to slowly bring his feet to the ceiling. So that's now we've got hamstrings on length, and now he's going to re-bend his knees. And to complex the exercise, he's going to see if he can touch his toes. Not allowed to lift the spine off the floor, and you can see from the angle how well he's maintaining the length of his spine. With the arms, we're not allowed to, we want to keep all the shoulder girdle down, so we're not allowed to concave the chest in order to get to the feet, and you can see how challenging that is to be able to do that. So that equals stage 1 of the supine series. So that is supine exercise 1, where we set up, we bring the chest position down, we activate the cylinder, we bring the legs up, bringing the knees as high as they'll go without lifting the spine, and then we come in to see if we can touch the toes. Now it doesn't matter whether or not you can touch your toes, what matters is you keep an ideal spine. And then to lower, we just re-bend the knees there, mate, good. Bring the hands down to this position. And we maintain chest position and size. Now bring your feet down to the ground. All right, and so the challenge is around this junction because of iliopsoas is going from the lumbar spine to the hips. And so if we can keep the spine down, then we can actually safely do hip flexion. So that's supine exercise 1, setting up, lifting the legs, coming to touching the toes.